Let's bring in Amanda Stoker, host of Sunday with Stoker, 7 o'clock Sundays here on Sky News. Amanda, so much to talk to you about, but let's start with this stuff from Jim Chalmers because it's really doing my head in, right? You know, these guys came to power promising to reduce electricity prices, promising to fix the cost of living. Everything's going up. And whenever you hear him talk now, he just says, oh, it's all global figures. There's nothing we can do about it. But don't you worry, even though we've got an inflation problem and a debt and deficit problem, we're going to throw some more money your way in the federal budget.
Ultimately, small-term compensation for the hardship people are experiencing on the cost of living front pales into comparison to the impact both of the energy policies that are being implemented by this government that are designed to and deliberately drive the price of baseload energy higher and double down over and over again, whether it's in their price caps or in their sort of carbon tax version 2.0, in the very things that are going to reduce investment and in the long term make sure people are paying more. And at the same time, there seems to be a stubborn refusal from Chalmers and his team to combat the causes of inflation that are within control, like, for instance, the rate of government spending, like the amount of red tape and green tape that gets in the way of those nation-building projects that the private sector so very much want to get on with, like tackling our low productivity or our dysfunctional industrial relations system. He's not prepared to touch any of those things, and ultimately that's what's needed to get inflation down for the long term.
Yeah, that's all the hard work. They're the hard jobs that good treasurers like Paul Keating and Peter Costello tackled. Some of those economic reforms that, as you mentioned, importantly boost productivity. So it doesn't seem to be doing any of that. Now, when they talk about energy or electricity prices, electricity cost rebates that are likely to come out in the budget, it seems that Canberra's going to be taking away with the other hand, though, because it's been leaked that they're getting rid of those low-income and middle-income tax offsets that have been around for a few years. That could cost some families up to $1,500 in their tax return.
So even if they take from a low-income family that $1,500, but provide some, let's say it's the same, but it probably won't be, as assistance with energy bills, well, all you've really done is apply a couple of layers of government administration to money that should have been just left in the pockets of people in the first place. The fundamental benefit that comes from small government is better efficiency in the way that we use the resources that even those for whom they are precious and finite are able to get bang for their buck. And so all of this double handling and triple handling is just an excuse for more bureaucracy, a bloated Canberra public service, and less in the pockets of the people who need it most.
All right, until last year, you were in the Senate for the LNP. You would have been there with Senator Simon Birmingham. He's the Senate leader for the Liberals at the moment. And this is what he said today about arguing for the Liberal Party's no policy.
Will you campaign for a no vote?
Well, it's equally not my intention. My intention is to respect the Australian people who will go about this referendum applying their judgment to the issues that are before them at the time.
The opposition leader in the Senate saying he will not campaign for his own party's position on the Voice referendum. Senator Alex Antic joined me earlier in the program. Here's what he said.
I think if that is to be Simon's position, then I really do think this makes his position as opposition leader in the Senate and a front bencher fairly untenable.
Amanda Stoker, do you think Simon Birmingham can stay as the leader in the Senate and on the front bench?
If he intends to vote in accordance with the party's policy, and as far as I can tell, there's been no suggestion that he won't do that, then I think he can keep the position in the shadow ministry. However, if he intended to campaign in a way adverse to that, his position would become untenable. But as far as I can see, he hasn't actually said he intends to go out against the party room's decision. there will be a number of people in the party room who will have different levels of passion on this stuff. And just like any other policy issue, some people will fight harder for things that are in their bucket. But so long as
but he's the Senate leader. He's the Senate leader, and he was the campaign spokesman at the last election. I mean, he's now picking and choosing which policies he likes and which he's just going to ignore and run dead on. Fascinating situation.
Yeah,
Great to get your perspective on it, Amanda. I appreciate it.
It is pretty fascinating. But I mean, I do think that in a leadership role, you do have more responsibility. I think you got quite a good point there. But I think it's also true to say that he is often quite strict about people towing the party line on the things that are passionate in his mind. Things like the party's position on net zero were things that he was very, very strong in enforcing that party discipline on. So you'd like to see it work both ways.
All right. Do as I say, not as do as I do. Say not as I do. We will see. The debate continues. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.